The great Tao flows everywhere, both to the left and to the right. It loves and nourishes all things, but does not lord it over them. And when merits are accomplished, it lays no claim to them. The more, therefore, you relinquish power and trust others, the more powerful you become. But in such a way that instead of having to lie awake at night controlling everything, you do it beautifully by trusting the job to everyone else, and they carry it on for you. So you can go to sleep at night and trust your nervous system to wake you up in the morning. You can even tell it, I want to wake up at 6, and it'll wake you up, just like an alarm clock. This seems a sort of paradox to say this, but the principle of unity, of coming to a sense of oneness with the whole rest of the universe, is not to try to obtain power over the rest of the universe. That will only disturb it, antagonize it, and make it seem less one with you than ever. The way to become one with the universe is to trust it and others as you would trust another, and say, let's see what you're going to do. But in doing that, you see, in saying that to everything else that you've been taught to think is not you, you are also saying it to yourself. Because finally, as I've pointed out, you do not know where your decisions come from. They pop up like hiccups. And when you make a decision, people have a great deal of anxiety about making decisions. There's this guy, a farmer, who hired a farmhand to help, and he found he was an extraordinarily efficient worker. Because on the first day, he put him on sawing logs, and he sawed more logs than anyone had ever sawn. It was fantastic. But it was all done in one day. So the next day, he put him onto mending fences. And there were all kinds of broken fences around the farm. And in one day, he had the whole thing done. So he thought, what am I going to do with this guy? So he took him down into the basement and said, look, here are all the potatoes that have come in from the harvest, and I want you to sort them into 3 groups. Those that we sell, those that we use for seeding, and those that we throw away. So he left him to it. But by the end of the day, the worker came back and said, that's it, I'm done, I quit. The farmer said, what, you can't quit? I've never had anyone work so well. I'll raise your pay. I'll do whatever it takes to keep you. But the man said, no, it's fine. Mending fences and chopping wood is one thing, but sorting these potatoes is just one decision after another. Non-stop decisions. That's the real exhausting part. And that's the problem when we make choices. We always second-guess ourselves. Did I think long enough? Did I gather all the right information? But if you dig deeper, you see, you never have all the information. In fact, the amount of data you'd need to consider for even a small decision is practically infinite. So what we really do is go through the motions. We pretend we're thinking it all through, but when the moment to act arrives, we make a quick call. Now, I'm exaggerating a bit for effect, because, sure, now and then, we do see the shape of things clearly enough to make a sound decision based on reason. But what's fascinating is how often it all turns out fine, despite all the unknowns we forgot or never saw. You see, warriors are the ones always thinking about every single variable they can't control, imagining what could go wrong. But when you do make a choice and it turns out well, chances are very little of that outcome had to do with your conscious effort or analysis. Oddly enough, things tend to flow more smoothly when you let go of control and trust others. That's why great entrepreneurs and leaders are the ones who can delegate, who empower others to handle the work, because they build their ventures on the same foundation as any living system. shared responsibility and distributed power. It nurtures and supports everything without dominating anything. And what's truly happening is this: the more you let go, as if what you're trusting is something entirely outside yourself, the more you begin to see that you and the other were never separate to begin with. But if you try to find that unity by forcing the other to submit to the self, it won't work. If instead you hand over control to what seems other and act with trust, yes, you may stumble, you may get it wrong, but you're aligning yourself with a principle that's deeply embedded in how life itself evolves. That's the secret behind nature's intelligence. It thrives on shared power. That's also why democracy, even if messy and imperfect, surpasses monarchy. Wasn't it de Tocqueville who said, "Democracy is always right, but for the wrong reasons, because in a democracy there's a hidden intelligence at work, a collective wisdom that emerges not from command, but from trust." This is the principle Buckminster Fuller referred to as synergy, the intelligence that arises from a complex system, one so intricate that none of its individual parts can ever fully comprehend the whole. And that ties back, once again, to the idea that we are always stepping into new environments. Not environments we understand, but ones we haven't encountered before. We only ever really understand past environments, the ones we've already lived through. And yet, at every level of evolution, from cells to civilizations, something novel is always emerging, a form of organization that surpasses anything known before, but we don't recognize it until it's already happened. Take, for instance, the Kon-Tiki expedition. This man figured out just enough to build a balsa wood raft and sail it from South America to the Pacific Islands. He worked with the little he knew, but once the journey began, he discovered that all kinds of unexpected natural elements cooperated with him. The wood, when soaked, would expand just right, tightening the lashings and holding the raft secure. Flying fish would land on deck each morning. Breakfast delivered by nature itself. It was as if he had hit a harmonic note in the universe. He wasn't forcing things. He was in tune with something ancient and wise, a tradition perhaps followed centuries ago by those deeply attuned to ecological rhythms. And what arises from this way of seeing, from this letting go, isn't some sentimental idea of virtue or sacrifice. It leads to something far more grounded, a political reality that is radically practical. To release control, to stop dominating every moment, has become not just a spiritual idea, but a matter of strategic survival. And equally, in a parallel sense, it is now practical politics to learn how to enjoy your life. You could go to the most hardened moralists, those with their Protestant ethic, who have long rejected pleasure as a serious pursuit, and say to them, with all sincerity, it is now your duty to enjoy yourself. Why? Because in an age of abundant leisure, people must learn how to enjoy life, or they will destroy everything in their boredom and confusion. So you see, utopia is no longer a fantasy. It's not an idealistic dream. It's a practical necessity. Without it, humanity spirals into self-destruction, a collapse fueled by paranoia, by the endless search for someone else to blame, by the delusion that we can fix our pain by eliminating scapegoats. That's the madness you see playing out now. Left, right, conspiracies, purges, constant outrage. It's all irrelevant, because we've reached a point where we must now trust something deeper. Our intelligence, our technology, and our capacity to risk doing what we truly desire. And it will work to the degree we realize this. What I really want is deeply tied to what you want. And what you want? I don't know. Surprise me. That's the bridge, the kinship between I and thou. And so when we return to the root question, what do I really want? The honest answer is, I don't know. When Bodhidharma was asked, who are you? He replied, I don't know, planting flowers, to which the butterflies come. He says, I know not. And that right there is the beauty of not knowing, the beginning of desirelessness. When you truly don't know, something interesting happens. There's an early stage of not knowing, and then there's a deeper, more profound kind of not knowing. In the beginning, you don't know what you want, simply because you haven't thought much about it. Or perhaps you've only skimmed the surface. Then someone challenges you to really think it through. So you start listing things. I'd like this, maybe that, perhaps the other. That's the middle phase. But if you keep going, you start to question, is that really what I want? Eventually, you reach a point where you say, no, I don't think that's it. It might satisfy you for a time. You wouldn't push it away, but it's not it. So why don't we really know what we want? There are two main reasons. First, you already have it. And second, you don't know yourself. You can't know yourself. The divine, what some might call the Godhead, is never an object of its own awareness. Just as a blade can't cut itself, fire doesn't burn itself, and light can't shine on itself. There's always a mystery at the heart of it all, a mystery that cannot be solved, only lived. So this I don't know, spoken from the depths of being, is the same as saying, I surrender, I trust, I release. It is humility, it is love, it is the willingness to stop grasping. As the Upanishads put it, if you think you understand Brahman, then you do not understand. But if you know that you do not understand, then you are beginning to truly understand. For Brahman is unknown to those who claim to know it, and known to those who admit they don't. And here's the principle. Whenever you consciously relinquish control, whenever you loosen your grip on yourself, something shifts. You experience a surge of power, because all that energy you were spending on managing, defending, clinging, becomes available. And in that moment, you align with the current of the Tao, the divine energy, the natural flow of life. But when you try to act like a god, by controlling everything, by refusing to trust, by needing to command and dominate, you lose that power, because now you're just surviving, burning through your energy in a state of constant self-protection. So the paradox is this: the more you let go, the more comes back to you. Now you might say, I'm scared, I don't have the courage to let go. But eventually you realize you have to let go, because there's nothing to hold on to. Everything is dissolving anyway. Everything is falling apart. We are all, in a sense, dying every moment. All that we cling to, our hopes, our plans, our identities, either turn to ash or pass away like a mirage, like snow on a dusty desert. They glitter for a moment, then vanish. You know the old poetry, Omar Khayyam, Shakespeare, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, shall dissolve and leave not a rack behind. Decay, impermanence, these aren't enemies. They are allies. They do the letting go for you. Nature itself pries your fingers open, shows you the illusion of control, and invites you to rest and surrender. And when you truly get it, when you feel in your bones that it's all slipping through your hands, that's when something new happens. You find yourself with energy you didn't know you had. But it isn't a power you seized. It came because you released. And that kind of power, born from surrender, not domination, is the kind that can be trusted. Because what we're exploring here isn't merely a set of intellectual ideas. It's a living experience, an unfolding, a moment-to-moment experiencing